worst is over. The monsters in my head are scared of love. Falling people, listen up. It's never too late to change your love. Don't let them steal your light. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side, and you'll see all the raindrops falling. Revolution, and we'll make it out tonight. It's a revolution. It's a So don't let them steal your light. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side, and you'll see all the raindrops falling. It's a revolution, and we'll make it out tonight. It's a revolution.
Get ready to be inspired by the people, stories, and opportunities in Africa. We're a global community of Africans and friends of Africa with no boundaries. Together, we celebrate the continent's successes and help provide solutions to some of its greatest challenges. Impact Africa airs live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. You can also catch previous episodes on iTunes and on the show's website, impactafricaonline.com. Connect with Impact Africa on Twitter and Facebook at UImpactAfrica. Together, we'll discover that the real Africa is full of amazing talents and great opportunities. Welcome to Impact Africa. Africa has long been associated with needing aid and handouts. Today, you'll learn so much more about this wonderful continent from enlightening stories, people, and ideas. Now, here is your host, Tope Fajin Basi.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to everybody watching and listening to Impact Africa. It's really a delight to be here today, and I'm sorry we missed last week's show. I was not feeling well, but all is good right now. Today we're going to be talking about African literature, and I've got a couple of guests who will do justice to the topic, since I cannot write, I can't write fiction. But before I introduce my guest, I want to talk a little bit about the Africa America Institute Gala that happened in New York on Monday. It was a very, very inspiring gala, and there were a lot of dignitaries. Of course, it's UN week, so a lot of people were in town. Former President of Nigeria, General Olusegun Obasanjo, and the President of Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, was also honored on Monday. But one of the things that I took away personally from there is there's been a lot of investment in Africans coming from the continent to the US to study, and that has been great. Some of those people have gone back to do very amazing stuff back in the continent. But I think it's time for us to shift our resources to improving the state of African universities. And the president of Cote d'Ivoire actually mentioned that, and that was really, really, really great. We need to start thinking about how we, especially Africans here in the diaspora, can take some of the things that we've learned, some of the things that we've seen in the education sector here, and take it back to our colleges back home. Things like, maybe you want to be an adjunct professor or, go and teach during the summer in Nigeria, to take some of these skills back there. We should start to think about this, because not everybody can get here. There are 1 billion people in the continent of Africa who can use some of the skills that we have gained. So I'm hoping that we will take heed and do this. So let's go to today's show. When I was growing up, books by Wole Soyinka, Zulu Shofola, Chinua Achebe, Kola Onodikwe were always within reach. My mother was either reading one of those or I was reading one of those. In short, I grew up around African literature, but these days, African literature is looking like an endangered species. The kids are hardly, getting any pipeline of books to read, and that has been a challenge. So today, we're going to have 3 people who are working to make sure that this changes, discuss this topic with us. On the phone should be Dr. Adeshola Ezeokoli. Adeshola, are you with us?
Yes, thank you very much.
Fantastic. And in the studio, joining me in the studio will be Nike Campbell-Fatoki, and I will introduce her in a second. And Deborah Ahekora should be joining us from Accra, Ghana. We are hoping that the connection will work, but let's see, how that will work. But she is the director of Golden Baobab, an organization that is at the forefront of ensuring a flowing pipeline of inspiring African children's literature. But I want to introduce Dr. Ezeokoli. She's a medical doctor, and she is as talented as they can be. I cannot understand how she does everything she does. She's got 3 books out, but the latest one is You Can Be the Best You, and she blogs. I honestly, don't read a lot of blogs, but I read hers because she makes sense and she writes in languages that you can understand. But she blogs at sholashade.com. And joining me in the studio in a second will be Nike Campbell-Fatoki, the author of Thread of Gold Beads and producer of the play with the same name that is coming out to Maryland, D.C. area on October 4th. So you're welcome to the show. And I would give a 30 seconds so that Nike can join me, so that people can see you on the screen as well. So you can come close to me. So you're very welcome, Nike. Good to see you. I know it's been ages. So Nike is also a very, very, very busy lady. I don't know how she does it. She's a mom, just like Adeshola is. She's a financial manager. She owns a business, and then she wrote a book, and now she has the book going on stage. You make me really feel like a layabout. Seriously.
Girl, you are as busy as you're busy. Please don't tell me anything else.
But you're both welcome to the show. And Dr. Ezeokoli is joining us
Thank you.
From Chicago. I know her as Shola, but I won't call her Dr. Ezeokoli. It just sounds really cool. But I want to first of all say that on this show today, we're going to be giving out 2 VIP tickets to Nike's stage play on October 4th. And to get your hands on one of those tickets, this is all you need to do. You have to answer these questions. What year was the novel Thread of Gold Beads written? What countries were the story set in? And what period in history was covered in the novel? If you have the answers, tweet your answers, mention @UImpactAfrica and use the hashtag TOGB. But make sure you mention us, and you must do this before 10 o'clock Eastern time. We're talking VIP tickets, really, seriously. So I hope that somebody will be winning that today, or 2 people will be winning that today. But I want to start with you, Adeshola, on the phone. What is African literature? Is it fiction written by an African, or just something written about Africa? Or is it just something that is about Africans in general? What is African literature really?
Well, to me, understand African literature to be literature from Africa, written by Africans, or not, essentially about Africa.
Interesting. So it has to cover those 3 things. It cannot just be some American guy writing about Africa. It has to be, by an African about Africa. Okay.
Yeah, it should be of Africa, essentially.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. So then, Nika, let me ask you. I'm always thinking that African literature is dying or is dead because of globalization. I feel like, when we were little, it was NTA Channel 5 at 4 o'clock, and that's it. There wasn't Disney 1, Disney 2, Disney 3. But Nika, tell me, do you think that globalization has anything to do with this death of African literature?
I would actually have to look at it from the other point of view. I think globalization may actually have facilitated more of African culture and African history going around the world. That's the way. That's my own perspective. Okay, fine. We have been infiltrated by Disney and cable. Yeah. But then again, on the other end, Europe has also gotten a chance to know Africa on the other end. I mean, it's not always negative Africa they see. Now they're seeing more of positive Africa. Globalization has also done that, in my own perspective.
No, but Adeshola, do you think that they are seeing enough? Because this was one of the notes that I took this morning. And I thought to myself that if people read more of African literature in their classrooms in America, they would not ask me as adults if we live on trees. But do you think that we've really been able to break this barrier, like Nika said?
We're definitely not where we should be yet. But because of globalization, there is more hope. I would expect that in this day and age, we should see more writing from Africa about Africa. I mean, I grew up with Chinua Achebe, Mabel Shegun. The other day, somebody was talking about Mabel Shegun.
I didn't remember her.
You remember her, my father? Yes, Mabel Shegun, wonderful writer. Eze goes to school and all that.
Yes.
And these books were given the same pride and place as, books like Enid Blyton and Famous Five and all that. Are on par with each. Somehow along the way, there's been this disconnect in which the people who used to write back then, I'm not really blaming anybody, but somehow it's as though they've been unable to hand that down to the rest of us.
Interesting. You raised a very, very interesting point. When I was at the AAI Gala on Monday, I asked Yvonne Chaka Chaka, I said, what do you think about African music and where it has evolved to? And she wasn't too pleased about the African music today. Like, we're hearing it. She was talking about the American influence on African music. And I asked her and I said, have you tried to mentor some of this, upcoming musicians to pass down some of your messages? And she said, essentially she said in English, a Yoruba proverb, which is a child that stretches her hand that the mother carries. So it looks like, some of this new generation singers don't want to do anything with the old ones. But Nike, Shola has mentioned a point. She said some of the maybe older people haven't passed on the baton, but are some of you, the newer people, willing to even reach out to the older folks, or you just don't want to be involved?
I have. You don't have to ask me twice. I believe in mentoring. I believe in people mentoring me and I being a mentor to other people, because you learn so much from them. You learn that the pitfalls that you shouldn't fall into, obvious things that you wouldn't know that they would know and will help you with. So I have reached out to authors who have already been established, who know what they're doing, just some guidance, and also watching them. It's not just about reaching. Also, don't just think you know it all. Nobody knows it all. So sit back a moment and observe. In observing, you can also learn a lot. And then ask questions. When you ask, you realize that you don't know that much. and so that's what I've done. I've reached out to them, and never be afraid to ask, because when you don't ask, you don't know. But, the worst they can say is no. And then you keep it moving.
And it looks like some people are saying a lot of no's, because it's usually hard. It's not
and
just...
you do get the no's, but you keep it moving.
It's not just about even writing alone. There's so many things that, that you try to reach out to the older generations, like... People just, hoard it. There was something that Adeshola put up on her Facebook page this week. She said, a flower doesn't worry about sharing space with the other flower or something like that. It just blossoms. And that's something that it really hit me. I don't even think I commented on it, Adeshola, when I saw it on your page, but it hit me. Because that's something that we Africans are not doing a lot of. To reach out to people, to not feel like people are not competitors to you. And that's enough. In that mindset, I have to compete with you. What is yours is yours. And nobody can take that from you. And we need to get to that point where we should be able to help each other out. Absolutely. But let me go back to one question that I have on my mind. And Adeshola, I want to direct this to you. I feel like it's it's all well and good to have the passion and the imagination to be a writer, but let's talk about the economics. Come on. You can write because you're a doctor, you have, doctor money. And Nika can write because, she also has she has Montgomery County money.
I'm a public servant
or whatever.
Of the local government in America.
So, you can do, you people can write as a pastime, but can people really sit down and go to town and write and still not live on the streets? Adeshola.
Okay, very good question. I love it. I once wrote a blog titled, "It Takes a Village, Get Help." There is nobody who doesn't need help. For my first book, which was self-published, I poured out all my savings into that book.
I can relate.
My second book, I had to look for ways to produce the book really, really cheap, because it's a poetry book, and let's face it, you cannot really sell a poetry book for $10. One thing I believe, so I'm a believer in God, and I have no apologies for that. One thing I believe is that if God has put an idea in your heart, sit down, pray, and think of how you can get that idea out. A lot of times we stop ourselves at the point of, I can't afford it. A blog, for example, is free. Go online, writing. There are people that need your message. Right now, personally, I have enough articles to make a book out of. Help doesn't just come and drop on you from the sky because you're sitting there wishing for it. There are many ways of writing and getting your message out that are not necessarily that expensive. Of course, you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. But, for example, if you're able to generate enough talk and, as it were, interest around what you are trying to do, you can get collaborators. But you won't get collaborators until you are serious about what you're trying to do.
So you have to put in the work first. Essentially, we are in this generation that is all about instant gratification. We want to get things out. We want to get it now, But unfortunately, this is not how it works. If you really want to succeed,
that is not how it works.
You have to make sure that, you
plant the seed.
You plant the seed. But now this brings me to a question for you, Nike. What about in this day and age of technology? You can publish a book right now, right here in DC, and somebody is reading it in the next second in Nigeria or in Kenya.
Yeah.
Is technology hurting or helping? And is it helping us to produce for cheap? Is it good? Because now we don't need to get our hands on the book. How is it helping you writers?
It's helping us, Kindle-wise and all that. But then again, there's some people out there who are piracy is out there, and figure out that your book is on PDF somewhere on internet somewhere. Like how, when, and where. So as there are positives to technology, there are negatives to it as well. So it's a nightmare, and you're like, somebody's emailing you, an author friend is emailing you, hey, I see your book out there. How? And they can read it online. So when we're putting out our hats, let's just say, it's a creation, it's something that you've been dreaming and working towards, and someone else tries to steal it from you, you're like devastated. And there are people like that out there. So, I mean, as best as possible and as much as you can, you try and safeguard your work as much as you can. I mean, there's some things out of your control.
Absolutely.
Well, you can only do the best that you can, but there are those negative things out there.
About technology, so it can hurt, and it's
can
like
hurt.
everything else. Technology, Facebook is great. We're able to hear from people, keep in touch, but at the same time, it can also hurt in terms of your privacy can be compromised. We're going to take a brief break, but before we do that, I want to remind you that if you know the answers to these questions, what year was the novel Thread of Gold Beads written? What countries were the stories set in? And what period in history was covered in the novel? If you know the answers, tweet your answers, mention at @UImpactAfrica, and use the hashtag TOGB. And you get a chance to win 2 VIP tickets to Nike's stage play on October 4th in the DC, Maryland area. So you're still listening to Impact Africa. I have Dr. Adeshola Ezeokoli and Nike Campbell-Fatoki with me talking about African literature. We'll be right back.
Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4 Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at united4kidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm, on the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum, on the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals, on the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome, on the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 1-443-499-2755. That's 1-443-499-2755. You may also send an email to info@impactafricaonline.com or tweet @UImpactAfrica. Now, back to our show.
back to Impact Africa, and I still have Adeshola Ezeokoli on the phone and Nike Campbell-Fatoki in the studio. Welcome back, ladies.
Thank you.
So I want to
Thank you.
I want to start with you, Adeshola. I think
Yes.
that I've always believed that one of the ways that we can learn about one another is through literature. It's just
Yeah.
it's really a good medium. But I see, and both of you have alluded to this at the beginning of the show, that people are getting to know more about Africa outside of Africa, in London, in America, and all that. But I don't think that we're knowing more about ourselves within Africa. The Nigerian books, and both of you have books out there. The Nigerian books, are they getting to Tanzania? Are they getting to South Africa? Adeshola, are people reading your books, in other African countries? What is the challenge getting to those places?
Thank you. So for me, my biggest challenge of getting my books into Africa has actually been logistics. The books are there. People in Nigeria want them. So many times I've gotten messages asking me, when is You Are the Best You coming to Nigeria? When are we going to get it in Nigeria? Recently, I tried to ship some books over there, and the cost of the shipping was more than the cost.
and I know you know this. You know this.
So as you can imagine, I had to look for other avenues. And recently, I sent some books over there to be sold. I, of course, them at lower than the retail price over here just because of the conversion rate. I wanted people to have them to get the books out there. This depends on the goodwill of going to Nigeria. And this happens on a very much ad hoc basis. So for me, it's really logistic. I would love for my books to be in Nigeria. I would love to be able to go to Nigeria and do events and sell books there. But logistics has been my greatest barrier. I'm not even thinking so much about profit at this point, because I know that eventually, as the books get more and more out there, the profits will come in. I believe I do have a message that people need to hear, but for me, the logistics, shipping, and the high expense has sort of made me go back to the drawing board and start try to figure out how I can probably get them printed over there at the same quality. Please find someone over there that be my point person that could work for me in getting these books out. That's what I'm looking into right now.
And you raise a very, very important point. And I know Nike, has been through this. I also have a book out. It's not fiction, but I thought, it can't be so difficult to get, the book into Nigeria. And the reason why I've actually stopped selling in Nigeria is I had a couple of major bookstores carry the book. Yeah. And getting them to pay me for the books they had sold was a problem. Wow. It took several trips to Nigeria and several, we can't get you a report. Oh, we can only find one of the 20 books you gave us. Oh, and these are major bookstores. Yeah. And eventually, when I've collected most of my money, and I just stopped putting additional ones out there. Monica, you did an event in Nigeria recently. How did that work out?
Pataba Books was actually the very first bookstore that, had my books in their stores. And I've had quite a good relationship with them. Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing this, but I've heard some horror stories. Oh yeah. But I've had a good relationship so far with them.
Pataba is great because that's his Ore
Shomolu.
Yes.
She's very personable. They update you without you even asking them. And they're not paying me for this promo right now.
She's been on the show before, and I actually.
But I'm really telling you that they're
awesome.
really wonderful. So Pataba, if you're looking to distribute your books in Nigeria or have them in stores, Pataba is a wonderful place to have it. And I had the book reading there. It was a great turnout. It was a great event.
Awesome.
Loved it.
Awesome. And I think that's one thing that I didn't go to Pataba. I didn't even know about Pataba when I took my books to Nigeria last year. But after I met Ore, and I just thought to myself, if I'm ever going to do this again, and I think Adeshola, you can talk to her as well. I'll be happy to introduce you to her.
That would be great.
Yeah. The best thing is to do to work with people who have got this awesome reputation,
Yes.
because she's awesome
Yeah.
at what she does, and I will definitely do the introduction.
And I also have a additional. I have a distributor as well, and they're very good. Rice House is another one. They distributed my books all over Nigeria, so I can also provide that contact information. Yeah.
Awesome. You see, great. Additional, this will be free of charge, but we will see about charging. But this is great, and these are things that I think we need to share among like authors, because people are having this problems. A lot of people are getting really frustrated and essentially just abandoning the market.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, this is where we want to be, because these are our people, and they
This
need
is
to
where
get
we
the
want to be
message.
because the need is very high.
Yes. People, it's true. You're very right. And let me go to you, Nika. In terms of getting the word, there's some issues, and the reason why I want to ask you this question is that because Thread of Gold Beads is great, is an easy read. I've read it on Kindle, but it's also addressing some very historical issues. But is it safe for us to address these issues? Wars, colonialism, slavery, cultural practices. Does it wake up some harsh emotions that are better just left under the carpet, or no?
We have to address them.
Okay, good.
Oh, come on. Even when you say colonialism, people
I agree.
people think, oh, it was way back then. But remember, we're still undergoing colonialism, but it's economic colonialism.
Absolutely.
It's been covered up that way. Please don't come and take me to prison. But I need to talk about these things.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
mean, there's still colonialism, but it's economics right now.
Yes.
So we need to open our eyes and realize what's going on.
Yeah.
We are still shackled, and we need to find ways to free ourselves economically, mentally, every way possible. We need to be completely free. And so when the issues addressed in the book, the war, we're going through so many wars right now.
Yeah.
What are the issues that brought the wars upon us? We need to figure out why slavery. Who brought the slavery upon us? We think it's just the white man, but there were two parties involved.
Yeah.
There was a white man, and there was us.
Yeah.
What were we thinking letting our people go to the other side? We sold our people over. What were we thinking? So when we're putting blame on other people, we should realize what part did we play in it to make these horrible things happen? So we need to sit back and think about those things. Reading my book, reading other books that address these issues, we need to sit back after we finish reading them. There's a reason why we're writing these things, and there are messages that we need to put out there.
And and I definitely agree with you, but I had to put out that point because some people have said it after reading books, about Biafra War or reading books about the different wars. They're like, oh, this is going to be causing suspicion. But no, I agree with you. We need to address these issues and address them very objectively, not with the hope of causing any enmity among people right now, but with the hope of getting people to know that this cannot happen again.
Yes.
And this is how it should not happen again. But Adeshola, you write, for kids. How do you deliver this kind of message? And one of the things I like about your current book is that it's targeted at helping kids to get some self-esteem, to appreciate who they are. And part of, getting that self-esteem and knowing who they are is knowing their history. But is it hard? Is it hard writing, things like this for children? Or no?
Well, no. So I think that when it comes to children, we have to be very careful. The age of the child matters a lot. There are certain things that a 5-year-old can't understand, that a 6-year-old can understand. So for example, at the age of 5, you're telling them, you're beautiful, you're pretty, you're nice and brown like chocolate. I could just eat you up. You're so smart. As they grow up and they're older, able to handle certain things, that's when you can start to tell them the history so they know where they're coming from. I wouldn't want to tell a 5-year-old necessarily, too much about the truth behind Christopher Columbus, for example. You start with some foundation, okay? And then as time goes on, as they're growing up, then you can tell them that, look, as they start to see different things in the world around them and they questions, then you can bring certain things out. I realize, though, also, when it comes to Africa, is that there's a lot of things about Africa that even we don't know. For example, do you know that the richest man of all time time, past, present, was a king of Mali called Mensa Musa, who single-handedly caused a recession in the Arab world.
Wow.
There are many people who don't know that. And that was an African king.
No, I didn't know that either. I'm just hearing that for the first time.
There you go. You see, so this is part of the problem, is that a lot of our children know the bad rhetoric about Africa. They don't know any of the good stories.
Yeah.
Once upon a time in Ethiopia, there were these queens, Candace. They were very, very, very powerful women. But when you think about African women, what do you think of? Think of downtrodden women.
Yeah.
Where did that change? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
And these are also aspects of our history that we need to tell our children, not just about how we were slaves and, this and that.
Yeah.
The Egyptian civilization, Egypt is Africa too, no?
Of course.
Yeah.
These are things that we need to educate both ourselves and our children about, so that they can have pride in where they came.
And these
That's
are
what I believe, not just the
I
bad,
agree with you.
but telling the good also.
I agree with you because even when you're trying to help African kids take pride in who they are, especially for those of us who have kids here, part of helping them to take that pride is not just saying, oh, you're very smart, you're good, you can be anybody, you can look at Barack Obama in the White House. Now, what is very important is for us to give this kind of facts that some of this which Adeshola has just said about this is what your ancestors did.
Yeah.
This is what this is how they conquered the world. And so if a child knows that they've conquered the world, then they know that they can also do the same thing. Nikki, let me ask you.
Yeah.
There used to be a very good relationship in the past between African writing and stage.
Okay.
And nothing would bring a Wole Soyinka book to life than seeing them perform it on stage.
Correct.
And this has not really been happening as much, perhaps due to Nollywood and some other stuff. But you're trying to bring
The proliferation of Nollywood.
You're trying to bring stage back. God, you don't play. Why did you feel the need to bring Thread of Gold beads on stage?
That's a great question. I'm not gonna put that the fact that it was my idea on the table. When I was writing it, I wasn't thinking that far out. It was actually feedback from readers of the book.
Oh, awesome.
And they were like, I can see this as a play. I can see this as a movie. And I was like, really? They were like, the way I wrote it was very vivid. They could imagine it on stage. And so I was like, again, I was like, can I do this? I don't think I can do this on my own. And really, truly, I cannot do this on my own. This play has come about not because of me, but because of supporters and actors. Collaboration.
Yeah.
People who believe in the vision of and believe in me. And I'm like, me? Little me? But and they have come about. The actors in the play, they are passionate about what they do. They are talented. They are doing this out of their own time and investment. I'm telling you.
Wow.
A lot of people have contributed pro bono because they believe in this. And I am I'm so excited. I'm so pumped up. So the reason behind this is to bring the story of Africa to America.
Yeah.
And as you just spoke now, we need to talk about our stories. We need to tell them who we are and remind them that we are proud Africans.
Yes.
We have a history. We have a beautiful culture. We are strong. We are proud. We know who we are.
Yes.
And you don't need to tell us who we are. We will come and tell you who we are. And we'll be doing that on the stage on Saturday.
Oh, awesome. The only problem I have with this play, let me be very honest right now, is because I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to be in town. And Nikki,
I know,
I've
you
been
told
trying
me
to
so.
get you to, change the days, create another day.
We can bring it back. God
Please
willing.
bring it back.
God
Please,
willing.
you must bring it back. I will be praying, and I hope you will remember that you were on the show, and
I will never forget.
please, so you just do it. You do it for Impact Africa. But I'm very excited about that, and I think that this is very important for us to. Some of us learn by hearing, by seeing, and it's very important for us to see and to take pride in who we are. And I'm very proud of not just you, but also the actors that are, coming out to do this. I saw the Miss Grillo is going to be acting there. I would have loved to see her on stage.
Yes.
But I know there's going to be another opportunity. Adeshola, while we're trying to wrap this up, let me ask you. You know, I always think that a part of the challenge in Africa about, you know, getting our word out there and our work across Africa is because there's Anglophone Africa, Francophone Africa. So there's just essentially like 2 or 3 Africa. But when I think about music, you know, think about there's a song that was the hit in Nigeria once, Premier Gao, by Magic Systems. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I can sing the song.
Exactly, but we all dance.
But I was singing the song. Awilo, do I know what he's talking about now? But I sing his songs. But is that more difficult to do through book? Or is there a way we can break the barrier? Or should we start thinking about, maybe authors like you think about translating your book into French as well, so you can reach some of this, you know, other Africans?
So just like here in America, we have a large swath of the population that speaks Spanish. And a lot of books are translated into Spanish, books are translated into English. So it should not be a problem with books. All you need is the ability for somebody to translate it, and of course a market for those books. There was a book read for French literature, because I did French in high school, called Une vie de boy, and it was translated to English. We were meant to read it in French, but I read it in English and then went to read it in French.
Now we know you. We know you people. Let's take the shortcut.
So translation is a really good way of getting books out there. But I think as long as logistics are a problem, then, you know, we're going to have a struggle.
That's true, because we translate the book, but we still need to get it there, distribute, market, and, you know, do things like that. I'm hoping to get the founder of Okada Books on the show at some point to talk about this issue of distribution, because in this age of technology, we should be
doing better than we're doing.
But I think some people are working in this regard, and I'm hoping that we can get them to talk about it. But before I close the show, Nikki, let me ask you one question. You have many jobs. I can count like 5 jobs that you have.
I don't have
five jobs. You do. But, you know, what is the best thing about being a writer for you? What's the highlight about, you know, writing African literature?
I feel there are no barriers. When I write, it's not like I'm in my own world. I feel I'm not restricted to anything. I can write freely how I feel, my own perspectives. And not just my own perspectives. When I go out and I listen to people, I can also write theirs. It's not just mine anymore. Because when you're writing fiction or you're writing whatever, you have different characters. So you have your own character as that's my opinion. And then you can also put a voice for someone that cannot write by themselves. And you can also tell their stories as well. So that's what's freeing and wonderful for me when I write.
Fantastic. Yeah. You know, I have to say I'm very proud to know both of you. I think that Africa is proud to have both of you, and I hope that, you know, your work continues to get out there and your messages continue to get out there. Thread of Gold Beats on stage on Saturday, October 4th. There are 2 shows, 2 p.m. and there's a 7 p.m. show. You still have a chance to win something, and we will definitely put that out there on our Twitter page as well. But I want to thank both of you for being on the show today, and we'll take a very brief break, and when we come back, we have a very inspiring guest that you do not want to miss. He is doing something phenomenal, translating slums in Kenya into something else. So please don't go away.
Awesome.
Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4 Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at united4kidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm, on the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum on the web at nextyearlimited.com, and from Data Century Limited, and from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals on the web at total-ascent.com, and from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome on the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 1-443-499-2755. That's 1-443-499-2755. You may also send an email to info@impactafricaonline.com or tweet @UImpactAfrica. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to Impact Africa, and I have to say that I'm as guilty as the next African, complaining about every single problem there is in the continent and literally doing nothing to solve it. This is what I do. But there are some people that are just exceptions. They're just outliers, and I have one of those people on the phone with me, joining me from Nairobi. I have Ronald Omyonga. Ronald, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did. That was a very good job.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Before I tell people what sort of a genius you are and what you did, I want them to watch a very brief clip about Habihut. So, and then we'll be right back to chat.
Okay.
Africa, Kenya, a land of great natural beauty, wealth, economic opportunity. In a world in which 1.1 billion men, women, and children do not have access to clean water.
The water that we are using is not tap water.
I personally am being disturbed so much with the typhoid.
That's the most important thing, to have waterborne diseases out of our community and in our household.
Our main problem in Kenya is just biomatter coming from dissolved fecal waste.
They are looking for and they are waiting for safe water choices. And Habihut is providing one of those very promising solutions.
If we are reaching 10 million people with water, I hope we can create 1 million jobs. When I went to school, I realized that girls spend too much time doing things that they should not have been doing. And so I said I just needed to create something that would make going to school easier by having clean water. For me, when I became an architect, being part of a bigger thing became more important than just making a living.
Ronald calls himself a social entrepreneur. So, from Kenya, he forged a global partnership with the Habihut here in Montana, General Electric, and public and private businesses. Now they've all come together with just one goal.
It's not just about the clean water, but turning them into entrepreneurs. The business model, what it does is that it brings the woman into the center of a business that is so critical to her, because water is critical to the woman. The water purification system we have currently from GE, the Zeeweed, can actually do 18,000 liters per day. A community should be able to sell around 6,000 liters per day, which basically is 1,500 gallons.
A recent Wharton School study of the GE Habihut suggests the water kiosk will serve as a focal point, a business hub attracting increased traffic for additional product sales and services, such as cell phone charging and mobile banking.
It's helping us so much. We have enjoyed the water, and also to us it's a beneficial to our community. It's also create a job. We can get more Habihuts. We can be very grateful.
This is not just a hut. This is revolution as far as women economic empowerment is concerned. The Habihut water kiosk means jobs for the women. It means income for the women.
I think it's a pretty viable solution. Mainly, it has income potential for the people. So there's a combination of putting together, obviously, the clean water, but also give them income potential and to pay back the investment over a period of time.
Women in this project are very excited, starting with me.
I feel good, and I'm looking forward to see my dream.
You are saying that, yes, you're serious about changing lives. You have a way in which you can invest in here, and your dollar keeps working for you, and it keeps changing lives beyond the people who will drink the water. You will change the lives of the people who will operate this as a business.
Welcome back to Impact Africa. I think I've watched that video maybe like 10, 20 times, and it still gets me all the time. And Ronald, I want to just salute you for this wonderful initiative. And I think on behalf of not just the women and the communities, on behalf of all Africans, I think you're just really my own hero. But I want to ask you,
Thank you so much.
what is the income potential that they're talking about? You know, how does this help, people create jobs?
My connection is not very good, so I request that you go through that again. What did you just say?
Yeah, so I said, how does this have any income potential, this Habihut project?
Yes, you see, what we've done with Habihut is it started in Kenya as an idea, but I partnered with some guys from the U.S. to create the enterprise. First, it started off as just a shelter solution, but what we've done is that we have continued to move it from being a shelter solution to something that becomes a business model that then resolves people's problems, and it keeps evolving over time depending on context. I don't know whether I've answered your question.
Yes, but so now I see definitely women are getting free clean water, but some people are able to make money from this. How are they able to make the money? How are the communities making money?
You see, when you're talking about people who are low income accessing water, they don't access water in their homes. They fetch water from a central point. And at this point, what happens is that there are several water vendors who do that job of sending the water to the community, sometimes at very exorbitant prices. So that is a business opportunity they take advantage of right now. And that is the business we want, or through Habihut, we have been trying to put women at the center of, so that women are the ones selling water to the community. And because they really identify with the problem of water, they will most likely not overcharge their fellow women in selling this water. So that is how the business runs.
Interesting, very interesting. But let me ask you about, so you had the idea, you're an architect, you have an idea, you want to do this for communities in Kenya, and you picked up the phone and called people in Montana. Even I'm in America, I don't even know anybody in Montana. How easy was that?
No, it didn't happen like that. What happened was that's really a story of another day. I happened to be in Montana because I started a water project back in my rural village, which was to help schools, primary schools in the area, to access clean water in their schools and improved toilets. And so I did a proposal to Engineers Without Borders, USA, and that project was awarded to Montana State University. That was back in 2003.
Oh.
So because of that, I established a relationship between Montana and my village.
Huh.
And in 2009, while I went there to make a speech to just talk about this project to the community that had already started funding this project, I expressed the need to go into housing big time. That's really the other thing I wanted to do. And so that's how the idea of the Habihut was born. I met with some U.S. partners who are now currently my partners, who read my story in the newspaper and decided to come, and we actually started a bootstrap company. This is a company that is funded through people's savings, people who just believed in an idea, who believed in a crazy African, and they were crazy enough to to put in money in it. And that's how Habihut was born, and that's how it has reached here.
Fantastic. But you know, you and I talked on the phone this week, and I know you were in Zambia when we spoke. So is there a plan to take Habihut to other African countries, or this is just a Kenyan thing?
Actually, this is a Habihut, and this remains our global. We actually have a global ambition. We don't want to just be in Kenya. We want not just in Africa, but the whole of the developing world, Asia and Latin America. Because the solutions we are developing are not unique to the African continent. So our intention is to go global. The fact that we've not moved is because it takes a lot of time to first create a company, to create partnerships. We are still out there looking for social investors who want to invest in something like this so that we can roll it across the continent and other continents around the world. So that's how it is.
You should surely, before you go anywhere else, you should bring this to Nigeria. So we are willing and ready to take it.
Yes, actually, Nigeria could be very soon on the line because part of our partnership with GE is that we have moved this beyond just a water kiosk, and you're thinking this same nice form can serve as a health clinic, can serve as a cyber cafe for people to access computer services. It can actually turn into anything. But starting from water so that we can grow organically,
And that
it was one of the ideas yes.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, part of the ideas that you've been thinking about is if you have traveled around Africa, there are these telecom towers, which are BTS stations, best transmission towers. And my dream has always been if every tower was turned into a Habihut center where there were many services being offered. You could go there and get water. You could go there and get health services. You could go there and access computer services. You could go there and charge your rechargeable lights so that you don't have to use a paraffin lamp. So we have an idea that we call the digital outpost, and we're just developing partnerships and seeking out partnerships to enable us to sell this around the globe.
And I think that this has the potential definitely of happening. And I hope that people can see your vision and they can definitely contact you. Your website is thehabihut.com. Is that correct?
Thehabihut.com.
Yes, correct. So if you want to get involved, you want to bring this to your country, please go to thehabihut.com. I want to thank you, Ronald, for sharing your ideas with us and for being on the show today. It's really been a pleasure knowing you, and I hope that we'll continue to be in touch and watch you grow.
Thank you so much for having me, and we hope that we can make a contribution to changing Africa and to changing the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for watching today. I've definitely learned a lot as usual, and I've taken some notes to go and prepare for the next season. Next week, we will not be on the show because it's Salah Day. It's Eid al-Kabir, and so it's a Muslim holiday. I will be eating some Salah ram somewhere. And the week after that, we will take a break to begin the new season. When we come back on October 19, we will be back with the new Africa 101. Yes, you thought it went away. No, it didn't go away. But this time around, we're going to be quizzing you on African heroes. We need to know our heroes, and that really would help us know who we really are. So get ready. There will be a lot of nice prizes to be won. But between now and then, please, go on our website, impactafricaonline.com, and watch previous editions of the show and get inspired. Most of all, please do something to impact Africa today. Until I see you again on October 19, please keep impacting Africa. Good morning.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Africa. Please join us again next Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. Have a good week and keep impacting Africa. Get ready to be inspired by the people, stories, and opportunities in Africa. We're a global community of Africans and friends of Africa with no boundaries. Together, we celebrate the continent's successes and help provide solutions to some of its greatest challenges. Impact Africa airs live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. You can also catch previous episodes on iTunes and on the show's website, impactafricaonline.com. Connect with Impact Africa on Twitter and Facebook at @UImpactAfrica. Together, we'll discover that the real Africa is full of amazing talents and great opportunities. Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at unitedforkidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training, and outsourcing services firm, on the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum, on the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals, on the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome, on the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com.